Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter, he's been active following his years in the White House for the longest time of any American president. He set that record 2 years ago, surpassing Herbert Hoover for the honor, and his record continues after he hit a milestone many people only dream of, turning 90 years old.
VOA's Kane Farabaugh sat down with the president and Mrs. Carter for an exclusive interview and talks with me about the experience and the Carter legacy. Let's take a look.
Among former presidents, Walter Mondale believes Jimmy Carter stands apart.
But he's got this part of him, this focus, this commitment. He gets onto something, he wants to get it done, and it's impressive to watch.
Kane Farabaugh, you've had a rather long relationship with former President Jimmy Carter. How did this come about?
Well, about 10 years ago, he was traveling around the country promoting the book Palestine, Peace, Not Apartheid. The book was controversial because of the title. I was assigned or tasked to cover President Carter's book tour, and we managed to get a one-on-one interview with him. I had about maybe 4 to 6 weeks to prepare for the interview, and so in the lead up to that first interview, I tried to cram or essentially read about 22 or 23 of the books that he had written previous to the Palestine book. And on the way to Chicago, I finished reading the Palestine book right before the interview.
Now, you spoke with the president at length for at least about a half an hour, and I kind of wonder, what is it like to be able to have a relationship that you have with this president, and is it something that you have with anybody else of his stature?
The reason why there is this relationship is because I think that President Carter respects the fact that I've taken the time to actually read his books and to understand the work of the Carter Center, what they're doing, where they're doing it, and why they're doing it.
The former president wanted to create a different kind of presidential library and museum that could host conflict resolution, modeled after the successful Camp David peace accords.
But it's grown enormously, and one of our basic principles has been that we don't duplicate what other people are doing. And so we have filled vacuums in the world, you might say, and over a period of 30 years or more now, we've gone into areas of international politics and alleviation of suffering and promoting democracy that others had never done.
The staff of the Carter Center has monitored more than 90 troubled elections, treated those suffering from neglected tropical diseases in many countries, and is on the verge of completely eradicating guinea worm disease.
And so for me, it's been an interesting, fantastic opportunity for me just to be able to sit in the same room, with the man who was the president, in all honesty, the day that I was born. And so, getting to understand him, I didn't have to live through a lot of the turmoil, I guess, that you could say shadowed his presidency. So I'm able to take perhaps more of an objective look on some of what he's done post-presidency without having that influencing, I guess, how I reflect upon those years when he was in the White House.
Does it bother him that the historians aren't necessarily real kind to him as of now?
Well, I think that that's an interesting point that you bring up, because I think that historians are starting to take another look about the presidency of Jimmy Carter. I spoke to former First Lady Rosalind Carter. Jimmy Carter and Rosalind have been married for 68 years now. They've been an equal partner in their entire lives. But when I asked Mrs. Carter about how she felt about President Carter being referred to as the greatest ex-president.
Yeah, and I don't like that. He was a great president. People are finding it out. And I like them to say, well, he's the greatest ex-president. Well, he is the greatest ex-president, but he was a great president too.
Joe Crespino, the Emory University professor, he said that there were a lot of things that happened when Carter was president that really weren't his fault. He inherited economic difficulty. He also inherited a nation that was very skeptical of its government because of the Watergate scandal. And so President Carter, when he was campaigning in 1976, said that he wanted to try to give the American people a government as good as its people.
The accomplishments of Jimmy Carter's presidency include normalizing relations with China, returning the Panama Canal to Panama, and negotiating the Camp David peace accords between Egypt and Israel.
I'm so proud of both of you.
But they tend to be overshadowed by the economic decline in the U.S. in the late 1970s and the Iran hostage crisis, which dominated much of his final years in office.
I think it's clear that his presidency was not the greatest.
that's not all of his doing, that's not all of his fault. A lot of that had to do with the circumstances he inherited. But I don't think there's shame in being called the greatest ex-president.
I think the verdict is still out, and historians will still have to weigh in on exactly what kind of legacy President Carter leaves behind as a president. But certainly he's established a precedent for presidents once they leave the White House that's going to be difficult for any president in the future to match.
VOA Midwest correspondent Kane Farabaugh. You know, Jimmy Carter was the United States 39th president from 1977 to 1981. He's also the recipient of the 2002 Nobel Peace Prize and even won a Grammy for a Best Spoken Word album, and he's now writing his 29th book.
Pretty incredible, right? 90 years old and still going strong.
I cannot believe it. I mean, he really looks like and acts like he's really just 60 years old. Incredible.
It's amazing. We all can only hope to be just like him.
Let's hope so.